Welcome to Habeas Treacherous, where I try to decipher this book, There's Treasure Inside by Jon Collins-Black, in order to find one of the 5 hidden treasures. On today's episode, I'll continue my breakdown of The Lion's Share Box and discuss why I believe answering an ad in the Daily Tarheel newspaper may land us a job in the treasure finding business. Let's begin! One of the hardest parts of this treasure hunt is figuring out what's a clue and what's just colorful writing. I don't think anybody really knows. The best we can do is just come up with a framework for why certain lines in the book may have a higher percentage chance of being a clue. One of the things that I look for to identify a potential clue is a part of the story that is clearly made up. Something that is either too fantastical to have actually happened, or something that happened so long ago, it's unlikely that JCB remembers the specific details that he includes in the book. And when I come across one of these passages, I ask myself, WWJCBII, why would JCB include it? Does it add value to the story, or could it be purposely made up to hide a clue? Here's an example of what I mean. In Chapter 2, JCB describes looking for a job that eventually leads him to the water filter company, where he gives the embarrassing presentation that culminates with him asking the question, "Hey blind man, what's the color of this chlorinated water?" Not only does this story sound like it's on the fantastical side and might be a fabrication, it also starts with JCB looking at very specific ads in a newspaper. Let's read that part now. The next day, I opened the Daily Tarheel newspaper to look for jobs in sales. One ad extolled the virtues of steak knives. No thanks. Another job elucidated the virtue of selling copiers. Pass. But then a particular ad caught my eye. This one said people were needed to sell environmentally friendly health products. A company with a cause. That sounded interesting. Okay, so what do I make of this? Well, for one thing, this event supposedly happened in the mid-1990s. That's over 30 years ago. Therefore, I think it's doubtful that JCB remembers the first 2 ads he saw in the newspaper. After all, he didn't apply to those jobs, and I definitely don't remember random things that I read in a newspaper 30 years ago. So this either means that these ads were just included to punch up the story, or that they represent clues. Now, I have a theory that because of the X marks the spot treasure trope and the giant X's on the front and back of the book, that whenever JCB uses a word like extolled that has an X in it, that he's indicating a clue is nearby. I also have another theory that I think JCB uses repetition to confirm what that clue means. For instance, here he lists out 3 ads that he saw in the Daily Tarheel newspaper. If my repetition theory is correct, then the final clue, or takeaway as we call it in the treasure business, should represent something that these 3 ads all have in common. Okay, so let's get into it. The first ad is about the virtue of steak knives. What could it mean? Well, since the eventual job he got was going door to door selling water filtration systems, maybe this first ad is for a company that is known for hiring college-age kids to go door to door selling steak knives. That company could be CUTCO. They are the best known of all the steak knife companies that operate this way. They've been around since 1949 and are based in Olean, New York. The second ad elucidated the virtue of selling copiers. Now, elucidated also means explained, so this could be another X word reiterating that there is a clue nearby. But what could that clue be? Well, there are a number of famous copier companies that would have been around in the mid-90s. Xerox and Canon are 2 of the biggest. What's interesting is JCB also includes the no thanks and pass short sentences in this passage. A pass, as in a mountain pass, could make sense as a location clue. And we have CUTCO, which might be referring to a pass that cuts through the mountains in a state like Colorado, which has the abbreviation CO. And after a brief search, I did find a place called Cannon City, Colorado, which appears to be on the edge of the Rocky Mountains. I definitely think this place has potential to fit the first 2 ad clues, CUTCO and Canon copiers. However, I really struggled to make it fit with the third ad, the one that sells environmentally friendly health products, the company with a cause, the one that sounded interesting. So I decided to start backwards and begin again, but this time with the third ad. The line, "That sounded interesting," seems important and also seems to go with the line, a company with a cause. After a quick search, I did find a type of company that sold similar water filtration products to the one that JCB ended up working for, with the initials CAWS, or cause. The initials stood for Clean Air and Water Systems. I like this connection because it made the lines "a company with a cause" and "that sounded interesting" make sense, because cause sounds like cause. Then, because I found other clues that I cover in other videos leading me to Utah as a potential spot for the lion's share box, I decided to revisit the CUTCO clue. Since CUTCO also has the abbreviation for Utah in it, I decided to separate out the name of the company this way: C-U-T-C-O. In this form, the CO could mean county instead of Colorado. So then I would be looking for a specific county in Utah that starts with a C. And sure enough, there is a Carbon County, Utah, and I really like this one because C is the atomic symbol for, you guessed it, carbon. So by now I know what you must be thinking. Yo, HT, is there a Cannon City or some tie-in to Xerox in Utah? It's a great question, but sadly none that I could find. But then I remembered my theory about Jon and repetition. If Carbon County is correct, then the copier clue should also somehow connect to carbon. And that's when I remembered that when you copy someone on an email, you CC them. And the CC is from the old school phrase, carbon copy. Back in the old days, when you needed to make a copy of something, you used a carbon copy machine. Okay, so if these first two are correct, then the third ad about the Clean Air and Water Company should also have a tie-in to carbon. And I think it does, because the way that you purify water or air is you typically run it through a carbon filter. If you think about those old Brita water pitchers, the reason you sometimes see little black things floating in the water is from a bad carbon filter. Anyway, who knows if this is the correct solution? There are probably many other ways to combine these three ads into a clue. The one thing I did find interesting, however, about the Utah solve is that near Carbon County is the town of Orangeville, and also a place called Blind Canyon. So maybe Jon's reason for telling the story about the blind man who can't tell him that the water he's holding is orange is because Carbon County is a stop along the way to the lion's share. Anyway, that's all I've got for today's video. I hope you found it interesting and that it helps you with your hunt.